Hi, Kiki. Nice to meet you.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to see you.
Thank you. That's like the best welcome ever.
Okay, let me tell you how excited I am to talk to you, Charlie. I have literally logged on for this interview. This is my third time already because I am so excited. I could not do the math with Mountain Time and Pacific Time. Hello, it's an hour.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
Um, I kept telling my husband, "Don't talk to me. I have an interview. Do not come in here." And finally, he just left.
It's just like whatever. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I honestly, I feel like I live on too many time zones, and I'm always like calculating them in my head. But actually, I'm doing a project at the moment, which is Mountain Time. So I'm like
Oh,
now very familiar with Mountain Time.
oh my gosh. I am so excited to talk with you. Charlie Webster, you are amazing podcaster, journalist. I mean, this Scamanda, if you want. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, do you want them in for sound for
Oh
sound?
no, I can hear you fine.
Oh,
Oh
great.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're good.
Sorry,
You're
I
good to
interrupted.
go. No, it's all good. I was hooked with this Scamanda. I was like literally sitting in my car. I can't get out of my car. I got to hear the last chapter. When it came to the end, I was like, no, there's got to be more. I mean, Amanda Riley, how are there people like this? And yet there are. So for people who don't know, tell us a little bit about who Amanda Riley is and what she did to become Scamanda. Great name, by the way. So good.
Yeah, I have to say, Amanda definitely, the name Amanda helped with the play on words. You can't do that
Mhm.
with every name. But Kiki, well, thanks for talking about it and having me on. But also, I love that you were like, I kept listening in my car and I couldn't, the amount of people that have said that to me that have been on like long car journeys or just couldn't
Mhm.
stop listening to it and couldn't get out of the car because they needed to know how it finished, which is music to my ears. So thank you. But for those that don't have any idea what we're talking about,
Mhm.
there's a woman called Amanda, and she started a blog back in 2012. Do you remember 2012 was like the heyday of blogging? We had like mommy bloggers, fitness bloggers, and she blogged telling everyone that she'd got cancer. She'd been diagnosed with cancer. And then she started to, get an online following, became like a little bit of a local mini celebrity. People followed her journey. They felt so empowered on compassion and so much compassion, but empowered themselves. And she had so much love by her community that supported her. She was a mother, a wife, a Christian, a teacher, and she spoke in church, in a big mega church, about her diagnosis and about her cancer journey. The problem with all that, because that sounds like, oh yeah, that's
Mhm.
amazing, and we hear that from all these incredible people that are having to deal with and live with cancer or have lost people with cancer. But
Mhm.
actually, the problem was that she was lying all along. And the podcast that I made, which you mentioned, which I made last year. Well, I made the year before and released last year, and it was the number one podcast for so long, not just in the US, but all over the world. I think 16 countries in the end. And what I wanted to showcase was how could somebody do this and why?
Right? I mean, the whole time you're waiting for the remorse. Like you're waiting for her to get busted, first of all. And I mean, she's bringing her bonus children, which I just, oh, the kids are involved and the husband, and it's just everyone that you question everyone. Like, how much did the husband know? Did he know? How could he not have known? It's so crazy. And yet this happened. I mean, how does this happen?
So you said bonus children.
Mhm.
You said that because Amanda called her stepdaughter her bonus daughter.
Mhm.
They had a little bit of a thing for like nicknames because Amanda's mom wanted to be called goddess instead of grandma. So
God.
there's quite a few nicknames. But yeah, how did she do it? And I think this is a really interesting question. And you touched upon like who was involved as well. And I think these are the questions that, still like how on earth did she do this? Because she wasn't sat behind a keyboard. She wasn't a keyboard warrior sat there making something up. Amanda did go to hospital. She did sit there in hospital and have drips in her arm and was, had a hospital gown on, and many people saw her in hospital. She took pictures in hospital. She took pictures of her medication, of her shaved head. She was in church where she fainted and peed and wet herself and got taken to hospital. So everything, because I think when you hear these things, you're like, how do people fall for that? No, 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 no. That's not the question. Because if I'd have been in that community, I would have thought she had cancer. When I first started to look into this, I was like, no, this woman's got to have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So, because sometimes it's hard for us to say and admit this, but sometimes, I don't know, maybe she believed her own lie and that's how convincing she was. But, she even flew to New York to go and have trials to treat her stage 4 cancer at this stage. And people say, well, how did she go to hospitals then? And sadly, it's actually easier. So it's actually quite easy. You can go to a hospital, and I could go to hospital now and go into an accident and emergency, and say, oh, that I'm not feeling very well. So they would hook me up to drips and test me for things, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're there for immediate care. And that's how Amanda did it. She would go to hospital for different things. I have actually spoken to Amanda quite a lot over this period, and she's told me that she did go to hospital for legitimate reasons. But the thing was, she said it was cancer. And she did get medical equipment, but you can go online, and I can order a load of medical equipment now off online. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the extent, I think, of the lens that she went to showcase that she had cancer. And then I think you mentioned her husband.
Mm-hmm.
That's the $1 million question as well. Her husband's called Corey. Um, I will say that when I made the podcast and with the documentary, which comes out on next week on the 16th of October on ABC and then streamed on Hulu the next day, it's called Scamanda, of the same name of the podcast. We just kept the same name throughout all of the shows.
Yeah.
And is that we do delve into this because he was by her side the whole time. He said that he went to hospital appointments with Amanda. He had a custody battle. You mentioned the bonus daughter, the
Mm-hmm.
stepdaughter. He had a custody battle over that was his daughter, where the medical bills for cancer for his wife Amanda were used in the custody battle. But so, you can infer what you will from that and make your own minds up. But Amanda didn't include him in the plea deal that she took, and he isn't convicted, but he was there all the time. And yes, if you could see my face right now, which you can, but maybe
Yes.
others listening can't, I'm definitely doing a facial expression that's like, well, you infer what you will from that, but
Right? I mean, come on. It's just I just don't know how you live with yourself. I come from my mom, she was a liar. Um, but she would always say, "Oh, you got to put a little truth in it and then it's more believable." And then I'm like the opposite. I'll tell you anything you want. I don't cover up anything. I don't lie about anything. And I just don't understand, especially in this day and age where it feels like it should be so easy to figure out if someone's lying. I just don't understand how something that touches so many families, destroys so many families like cancer, how you can just lie about it and in church and with all your friends and your family. I mean, it was just your mouth is hanging open the whole time you're listening to this podcast. Like, it just gets worse and worse and snowballs.
I know it really does, and I'm sorry that your mom is like that because
Yeah.
like I think that's the thing about this story. And look, as a I've been a journalist for 20 plus years now, and I've worked on so many different stories. I've spent time with like huge names, like the I'm from England, as you might be able to tell, but in the
Hmm.
States right now, with the royal family, with the likes of David Beckham, and interviewed those people. And but when it comes to this, I'm like, I think that's what fascinates me is it is actually relatable because so many of us, you mentioned your mom, so
Hmm.
many of us, sadly, it's human behavior of being touched by betrayal, manipulation, lies, and it is so nuanced. The top line of this story is like, woman fakes cancer, but it isn't even that because it's so nuanced and manipulation is so subtle. And I think well, actually, from talking to Amanda, so I approached her, which we show in the documentary at the sentencing, and then ever since then we've been talking. And the reason why it was important for me to talk to her was to find out why, as a journalist, it's important that I showcase as much as I can to an audience
Hmm.
and of the story, not just pick part of it, because it's interesting to find out what's going on in her psyche. Like, is she remorseful? You mentioned the question of remorse, and for her, I really, from what she's told me, I do think it snowballed, and then it became a thing where she couldn't get out of it, and then it's the big question of like, was this attention validation, which I very much, from speaking to Amanda and from doing all my investigation and speaking to everybody involved, I do very much feel like it is. But then you've got this other piece of money, and then the cancer, which you mentioned, which is, as you said, something that's touched so many of our lives, either directly or indirectly. And I think it can also be a cautionary tale to help raise awareness in a way of like these very manipulative behaviors. And it's not for us to like mistrust people, because I feel so bad about that, Kiki. Honestly,
Hmm.
I want people to know that, I've had people contact me that like, I've got cancer and I need help, and I'm now worried to ask for help, and but I don't want it to be that. It's more about understanding that sadly there is a small percentage of people that do this, but it's not black and white. It's very gray as to why, and it's much more down to the psychology of
Hmm.
why people are doing these things.
So now you've been talking to her while she's in prison. Is she still in prison?
Yes,
Okay.
Amanda is still in prison. Amanda got a 5-year federal sentence. And I was in that courtroom when she got sentenced. And I am not kidding. I have never experienced something where the room just went so silent. And then you heard like a string of gasps, because her recommended sentence was 12 to 18 months. And the judge said, I can see how you played and manipulated these kind people, because you're such a good actress. And so she gave her, and she saw her as a risk to public, so gave her 5 years a federal sentence. So she is in prison. I've been speaking to her in prison from what Amanda's told me. And again, look, Amanda is in prison for lying. So
Mhm.
you can take what you want and decide whether you want to believe this, but I'm kind of almost reporting what she's telling me. And
Mhm.
has said to me that she is sorry, that she is remorseful, she regrets every day what she's done and will do for the rest of her life. And she said to me that there was times where she knew she thought she's got to stop, and she kind of almost couldn't, because she thought that she would lose everyone, and but that is ultimately what's happened. But she isn't in prison victimizing herself, or to me anyway, or telling me that she has got cancer. She has admitted to me that she has lied and that she is sorry, and she wants to serve her time.
That's good. Does she have a plan for when she comes out? I mean, we just saw Anna Delvey on Dancing with the Stars, so does she have anything is possible in this world now?
I know, I can't quite believe it, by
I
the way.
know.
Um, yeah. I think I think this is different from God, I'm gonna be careful what I say from Anna Delvey because
Right.
I think, Amanda did hurt a lot of people directly, but also kind of indirectly, because what about all the people that have lost people from cancer? What
I
about all the people
know.
that, you know, to lie and say you've got something that is so painful and traumatic on a physical and a mental level. And like we said, people have lost lives. I don't know, but I do know from what she's told me that she's having a bad time. So it's not like she's going, "Oh my God, yay, there's a documentary about me." I really
Mhm.
don't, that's not what she's saying to me. I think she knows that what people see her
Mhm.
like. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think that she will I did ask her I did many times ask her to see if she wanted to give an interview. And at the moment she says that she wants to serve her time and then she will think about speaking, but she's not spoken because she doesn't want to. It's because she wants to try and do things the right way and not just speak and then it'd be like, oh well, she's lying anyway.
All
Um,
right.
so yeah, but who knows in this
I
day
know.
and again, I'm trying to be like the most neutral journalist I can. Um, and I think it was important to let the viewers and the audience have an insight and know what Amanda's saying. And then it's up to everyone else to make their minds up. And then I don't know, maybe I can't imagine her being on Dancing on the
I
Stars.
know. I can't. I still can't believe Anna Delvey was, but I mean, I don't even know anymore, like how to feel about any of these things. I
I know.
just feel like Amanda's different because it's so personal to
Yeah,
people.
I think
Look,
I think that's the thing.
yeah, like Anna was screwing over businessmen that we've
Exactly.
been trained to not care about. So
Yeah, and I think there was an element uh, of like kind of not Robin Hood. That's such a bad analogy, but you're right.
right.
Anna was manipulating these rich businessmen. And
Hmm.
I think, sometimes as a society, they very much been the power, right? So it was a power shift. Whereas, like, that's not what Amanda
Mm-mm.
did. And there was a family at the heart of this too. This was the victims that Amanda took money off, that gave money. But I know from speaking to all the victims, and I did want to make sure it was victim centered and that they were very cared for throughout this process because she's hurt a lot of people. It wasn't the money, it was the emotional harm and mental harm that she's caused people. But there is a family at the heart of this that she did cause a lot of pain to. And you mentioned the bonus daughter. Well, that's a young lady called Jessa now, who ultimately was emotionally abused throughout all of this. And the trauma that she's living with because she basically was raised in a lie is very
Hmm.
difficult. And she thought her stepmom was dying.
I can't even imagine. And then how are Amanda's kids doing? Because didn't she had at least one son, right? Was it one or two?
Yeah, Amanda has two
Okay.
boys, and they are living with Corey at the moment, and with also I think spend time with Amanda's mom too. And yeah, and I think again when we talk about these stories, and as a journalist, again, I really was like, okay, I've there's two boys at the heart of this. I'm about to tell this story which is blown up and gone viral, and we're talking about it ahead of the documentary, but there is two young boys that have, I are in my head that I don't want
Right.
to, they're innocent in all of this, sadly, and it must be extremely difficult for them. Amanda, when I spoke to Amanda and watched the documentary, but she did get extremely upset to me, like hysterically upset to me about the pain that it's caused her children.
Mhm.
And I don't think I'm naive. I think those tears were maybe the tears were feeling sorry for herself, but I do think there was an element of genuinity to that. But yeah, I mean, like the two boys and Jessa, who's the bonus daughter,
Mhm.
you know, thought that their mom and stepmom was dying, and also were told that they might need to donate their own
Mm.
body parts to be able to support, to be able to save their mom. So there's a lot of yeah, twisted kind of,
Yeah, there's a lot to this. Are they still married?
well, you asked the big
Yeah,
question.
I want to know.
Now I have to
Or
answer
do I
that.
have to? I'm gonna watch the documentary anyway, so.
Yeah, if you're not, then I can't tell you. No.
Oh my God. I saw that this was coming out, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I was like, what? Scamanda is gonna be on TV. I am obsessed. I'm obsessed. I'm telling you. When it was over, I was like, no, I want more. So yeah.
But
I
that's,
could be
thank
surprised. You
you.
don't have to tell me.
No, I am going to tell you.
Okay.
I can't not answer. Right. You've invited me on your show, and your listeners are all going to be like, "What? Answer the damn question." Um, but thank you for what you said, because that's one of the reasons why, you know, after when the podcast came out, people were like, "I want more." I was like, "Right, we have to turn this into a documentary. We have to create a visual piece of this." But to answer your question, because I'm now beating around the bush, is that they are getting divorced.
Um,
Corey filed for divorce in January of this year, 2024, and that's currently going through right now.
um,
Yes.
all right. I'm
You've
not
been
really
like,
surprised,
yeah, you've
but
been like, oh, is that surprised you or not? No.
no, not really. Not really. I was surprised they were still married. I figured he probably moved on by now. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think that.
saw that face. I see what you said. I got you, girl. I got you, boo.
Um, but yes, I am. It is interesting that they
Yeah.
are, you
Yeah.
know, divorcing.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people have their opinions about him, and you know, the questions around like, how could you be married to somebody for that long? But also the thing, if you haven't listened to the podcast, then there is one thing I'm gonna tell you, and you can decide about that, is that in I'd mentioned that the blog post was started in 2012, but in 2010, Amanda and Corey, when they got married, said that Amanda was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer to her friends, Lisa and Steve. And then she started the blog 2 years later saying she was diagnosed with cancer. And
Mhm.
Corey she married Corey at that time. And Corey said to his friend, who was his best man, Steve,
You froze. No. Oh, there you are. You're back. Oh, you froze
sorry,
again. Oh, there. I can hear you. You keep freezing. There you are. You're back. Oh no.
so can you,
Okay, now
can you,
you're back. You're back now. Oh, you keep
apologies, I
going in
just,
and out. Yeah, you froze again.
have you got me now?
Okay, now you're back. You're back now.
So sorry, my
Oh, it's
internet.
okay. It's okay. Yeah, you keep cutting in and out.
Guy. Is that any
Okay,
better?
now you're good. Now you're good.
Okay, I just changed my internet.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Okay. So yeah, so he told his best man Steve that she had cancer, right?
Yes, Corey told Steve, his best man, at their wedding when he was marrying Amanda, that his wife had got just been diagnosed with cancer. But that was 2 years before she started her blog in 2012, saying that she had cancer. So there are little, if you look for them, little clues, I suppose, to tell the story. And I suppose my job was to find all those clues to try and put it
Mhm.
together. But what I really wanted to do is showcase how subtle manipulative behavior can be. It's very convincing.
Right.
And
So we're
Amanda was
look
very charming, very, very, very charming, and did inspire a lot of people because she
Mhm.
stood on stage and said how, you know, she basically showcased herself as this miracle, and and how God was looking after her. Uh, and that's very inspiring for people listening.
I know, and that's another part to it. All of this negative, but there's still a positive because look at all the people that she did touch. And maybe, in their battle, they looked to her strength and they were strong. And that's the whole side of it that just makes you think, well, I mean, it's awful what she did, but she helped so many people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can. There's so many ways to look at it. That's the thing.
Hmm.
It isn't black and white. But then I suppose to all those people, you know, she ultimately was lying to them.
There's a
So
lot of people who want their casseroles back, that's for sure.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, talking about casseroles, Amanda, she the law is so interesting, right? Because this crime is a crime of behavior, but traditionally our law is very like, oh, you stole my property and I can prove it, and it's
Mhm.
very old fashioned. But a lot of crime is behavioral, and it is manipulating relationships, coercive control. Like, it is very, very, it can be very emotionally abusive, and almost like brainwashing people to get them to do things, which is ultimately, what this is. But all the casseroles that you mentioned that were made, and all the in-kind services, because there was a lot of people that gave food, they gave their time, babysitting services, they gave cash.
Mhm.
One person donated their blood platelets in honor of Amanda because they didn't have any money to give, any cash to give. But all that wasn't included in the law. Amanda was actually prosecuted for wire fraud. So it was only the money that was given through her, donation page
Mhm.
that counts. So I hope in telling the story, there's justice served in another way, because you only ever see part, oh well, this woman's been done for wire fraud, but not about all the pain and
Mhm.
destruction that she's left in her
Yeah.
wake.
God, such a interesting story on so many levels. So, what's next for Charlie Webster after the documentary comes out? You've got to be working on something else. I could see you. Now I feel like I know you. Come on.
Oh no,
You can
I
tell
am.
me. I'm not going to tell
Yeah,
anyone.
don't tell anyone. I love, yeah, my face is far too expressive sometimes. I don't think I once played poker and I got thrown off the table for
I could see
laughing.
that.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm just laughing. And I was like, okay, you can't laugh at a poker table. I am working on something else. The crazy thing about what I do is, even with Scamanda, I was making Scamanda and working on that for ages before I could even tell anyone or bring it to life. And that's what's happening right now. So I'm working on something else. I think I can say it is a podcast. And I can't wait to bring it to you all. It will come out next year, probably around summertime. And I think all Scamanda fans, and even if you haven't listened to Scamanda, are going to love it. It's a fascinating story with similar themes. That's,
Ooh.
well, that's about all I can say, and I've probably said way too much.
Oh my
Um,
God, I love it. Well, now that we're besties, you're going to have to be on the show again.
Oh, thank you. Definitely. And then I'll actually be able to talk about the next project.
All right, good, good. So tell us one more time when we can watch the documentary of Scamanda.
You can watch Scamanda on ABC on the 16th of October and also streaming on Hulu the next day. It's 4 episodes, so it does come out weekly every Wednesday night, but you can stream it on Hulu starting the 16th of October. Let me know what you all think. Obviously, there's also the podcast if you haven't listened. If you haven't listened, maybe watch the doc and then go and listen to the podcast. I don't know. What would you? Oh no, if you haven't. Yeah, I'd be intrigued
I would
what people
do the
think.
podcast first.
You think podcast
Or
first?
even like at the same time, really.
Yeah,
There's no reason why
exactly.
you couldn't,
Yeah, yeah, true.
right?
It's so I think it's going to be so interesting to people that have heard and been part of this journey and this story to see the visuals
Yes.
of all this and this brought to light visually.
Well, that's the other thing because you have like a picture of her in your head, and I purposely did not look up any of the people until afterwards because I had this thought in my head with her voice and your voice and everything else, and I didn't want to know. So even like because it was an actor who portrayed her voice in the podcast, right?
Yes, but you
Yeah, like I just didn't even want to
that
know anything.
yeah. But
So,
the actress, because I'd already spent time with Amanda, I tried to get the actress to portray her as accurately as I had spent time with her. So it wasn't necessarily just a portrayal, it was how Amanda does speak.
oh, her
Um,
delivery.
yeah, her delivery is
Oh.
how she comes across and how she speaks. And there are videos of Amanda, which you're gonna see in the documentary.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Yeah. So it's
I'm
pretty
so
yeah.
excited. Well,
I
thank
can't
you
wait to
so
hear what you think.
Okay, I will reach out. Thank you so much, Charlie Webster, for being with us today. I love you. We are besties now, I'm telling you. That's it.
Absolutely. I love you too. Thank you. No,
Uh,
whenever I need to pick me up. I'm just gonna
okay.
speak to you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.